belief that there is an objectivity outside of us makes me more interested in the story than in the image, because as you say in the book, pictures don't speak for themselves. They have to have text and context for the information to be appropriate, don't you think?
I think that we have to know things, and we have to know a little bit of history. This is something, by the way, Americans aren't very good at. I wonder, for instance, how many people know that Iraq has a history? How many people could tell you when Iraq started? Because Iraq started only in 1920. There was no Iraq before 1920. It was made up in the aftermath of the settlement of the First World War, and it was a British colony, made as a British, to be a British colony. If you start to know about the history of Iraq, or the history of the United States, or the history of any other place, you're going to think a little differently. So that historical context, I think, is something that we want to set the images in. And we always want to be making the effort to think how other people think. What would you feel like if you were an Iraqi civilian who hated Saddam Hussein? Let's take that for granted, of course, as I'm sure many of the citizens of Iraq do, because he's such a horrible dictator. Still, what might you feel? I don't think most people, it's hard to make that effort to think how the other person feels, but that's really what a moral life is, an ethical life is trying to take in some of the reality of what other people feel or how they see things from their point of view. Which doesn't mean that everybody has their own opinion. I'm not a relativist either. I'm not saying, okay, you people in Africa, you believe in genital mutilation. That's your tribal belief. Well, I have my tribal beliefs, but I respect your tribal beliefs. No, I think some tribal beliefs, I have very absolute standards on certain matters, that being one of them. And I think tribes can be wrong and folk beliefs can be wrong, and I don't think every belief is worthy of respect. But still, you have to start by thinking where people are coming from, and you have to start by thinking what sense of injury they have. Lots of people have tremendous sense of injury, and that is motivating them, and that's creating feeling.
Now I understand why you go to see for yourself.
I think you have to see for yourself, yeah.
Let me ask you to read the last few lines of your book, because I think they bring me very close to understanding what you're saying about the difference between the images we see on television and in the papers and what really happens to people in war.
Sure.
I've underlined, you can start anywhere you want to.
Sure. These dead are supremely uninterested in the living, in those who took their lives, in witnesses, and in us. Why should they seek our gaze? What would they have to say to us? We, this we is everyone who has never experienced anything like what they went through, we don't understand. We don't get it. We truly can't imagine what it was like. We can't imagine how dreadful, how terrifying war is, and how normal it becomes. Can't understand, can't imagine. That's what every soldier and every journalist and aid worker and independent observer who has put in time under fire and had the luck to elude the death that struck down others nearby stubbornly feels. And they are right.
The book is Regarding the Pain of Others. Susan Sontag, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill Morris.